Welcome to The Green Pretenders,
a sustainably challenged podcast.
My name's Simon.
And my name's Sian, and this week we are talking about oceans because on Monday just gone, Monday the 8th of June, it was World Ocean Day. Woo, 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 woo.
Whoop, whoop. Exactly was. And our oceans are in danger. Why is that, Sian?
There's a lot going on, so I'll rattle through some things off the top of my head. We've got rising sea levels due to the rising levels of CO2 in the atmosphere, global warming, ice caps melting, the sea is rising. Overfishing, whale poaching, all sorts of nasty things that affect the animals that live in the sea. Pollution through plastic, pollution through fuel and pesticides. What have I missed?
Yeah, as you said, like waste going into sewage, going into the oceans. Why do we need the oceans, though? I mean, they're pretty huge. They're over 70% of Earth's surface.
They are. And apparently, at the moment, 88% of that 70% is polluted with plastic debris.
Wow.
Yeah. But yes, we need the oceans because it's the biggest ecosystem on the planet, right?
Exactly. And also, the oceans kind of control the weather. And I think you'd agree with me. We quite like the mild weather in the UK, and that's pretty much due to the Gulf Stream. And if that was to go away, it would be a pretty fucked up situation, I would say, not only here.
And if those sea levels rise enough, then, you know, we're heading towards full-on Tom Hanks apocalypse movie style living in an underwater city.
Exactly, and our beautiful city of London is actually in pretty big danger of lots of flooding. So there's a lot wrong with the oceans. What are the solutions that we have at hand to resolve some of these issues?
Well, if we look at plastic first and foremost, so by 2050, apparently, plastic in the ocean is likely to outweigh fish. So that's pretty scary. And this comes down to what we've talked about quite a lot. It's about knowing what your intention is. So when you make a choice as a consumer, sometimes your choice might be in order to lower your carbon footprint. Sometimes your choice might be to reduce the amount of single-use plastic you're using. And they might not always overlap. So sometimes it might be, you know, a lesser of evils decision for you in that moment. And when it comes to ocean plastic, the best thing we can do is reduce our use of single-use plastic. And when we do have to use plastic, recycle it properly, make sure it ends up where it needs to be so that it is recycled.
Yeah, also, I think a lot of the plastic spills from landfill sites. So they might be close to the sea, and then obviously through wind or, you know, other natural powers, it then ends up in the ocean. So the best thing we can do is really make sure that that doesn't happen. So I think if we look at our R's, obviously reduce, reuse, and then recycle would definitely be our recommendation, right, when it comes to plastic.
Completely. And something I hear a lot in response to this is people saying, well, do you know what? If you look at the list of countries that contribute to ocean plastics, we're really far down the list. You know, China are the biggest contributors in this country, and people reel off how other countries are contributing a lot more to the issue than we are, as if that's a reason for us to not bother. And I think we have to say that collectively, you know, you've got to practice what you preach, and we've got to lead, we've got to set an example. So we've got to do the very best that we can do if we expect other countries to follow suit. Yes,
absolutely. I could not agree more. And that also goes for another issue, maybe talk about fishing a little bit. Now, obviously, a solution to this problem would be to just not eat fish. And while we think, you know, that is a good solution, we aren't the kind of people who tell other people what to do, especially when it comes to personal choices like diet and things like that. But what you can do is you can maybe check where your fish comes from. You can also get informed and check which fish you're consuming and whether that fish is endangered or not. So, you know, not every fish is made equal, but maybe there is a more sustainable alternative. There is such a thing as sustainable fishing, and so you can check that. Also, support local fishing communities and support projects that maybe give these people a way out of commercial fishing and more into sort of wildlife conservation. They can still be out at sea, which is, what they've always done and love to do, but maybe less, on the commercial fishing side and more on the protection.
Yeah, we understand that fishing is such a culture, and that a lot of towns and villages were kind of founded on the tradition of fishing, and really people see it as something that's in their blood. And so, as Simon says, we don't ever want to say to people, well, screw that, but there's always a way to do things differently. And if we as consumers can put our money in the right buckets to encourage that change, then we're kind of helping the fishermen to change how they are working.
Exactly. And voting, at the end of the day, that helps as well.
Yeah. Although, do you know what? Boris Johnson said something this week in one of his statements that really peed me off. It was about the statues being taken down, and he said, if you don't like it, just vote for someone who will, change it. And I was like, what a stupid thing to say, because we all make our individual choices as voters, but our votes don't necessarily translate into election wins. So it's like, that really got my goat. It really got my goat, that did. Because we might vote for someone who opposes commercial fishing, but whether they win or not is another matter. So
exactly. And until we have proportional representation in this country, that's not going to make a whole lot of difference if the majority of the people votes for lovely people like Mr. Johnson.
Yeah.
Speaking of charities, what about plastic in the ocean? Is there anything we can do about the plastic that is already in the ocean?
Well, yes. So the ocean cleanup thingy. I love the fact that people get innovative with tech when it comes to big problems like this, and hopefully some of our listeners will have seen these huge, basically giant bins that people are making or designing or innovating to go around the ocean collecting up plastic. And I think at the moment they're focusing on that thing. What's it called again? The giant garbage thing.
The Great Pacific Garbage Patch.
Yes. It kind of makes it sound quite cute and quaint, calling it a patch, doesn't it? I keep thinking of like a cabbage patch, but it ain't cute.
It ain't cute. It's there's several, because of the ocean currents. The plastic is all like it sort of swirls around and creates these patches. They're huge. Like we talk about like huge, the size of France or bigger, maybe even. And I saw like celebrities were claiming citizenship of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. They was like, yeah, we're citizens of Plastic Island, obviously, as it's meant satirically, and they are speaking out for the oceans. So yeah, again, some celebs are getting it. They're getting the message.
Yeah, I think that the ocean cleanup recently successfully gathered some plastic debris for the first time, because I think they had a couple of issues. This big boom that gathers up the plastic, it was breaking and things weren't quite working out. But it sounds like they're kind of really getting some momentum now. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on and donate to if you want to, or go and study physics or marine biology and design your own one.
Exactly. Oh my god, I would love if we could inspire some young people who are not quite sure what they're gonna do to actually study something that is gonna save us in the future.
Yes. Yeah, the thought, I think if I could go back now, if I knew that I would end up being able to invent some kind of brilliant machine that would clear up the oceans, I would happily make myself go through what for me was a torturous experience of studying science.
So speaking of ocean plastic, actually, what we also need to do is watch out for greenwashing. Now, basically, it's companies telling you that they're green and they're actually not. So Adidas, for example, said that they have made a shoe that is partially made of ocean plastic. Now, I think they take great liberty at the definition of ocean plastic, because some researchers in Germany actually said that it would be so incredibly complicated and costly to really produce a shoe, and the shoe horn alone will cost £200. And I think the shoes are selling for 149 euros or something, they said. So, keep an eye out on the small print, and do call these companies out when they make claims that they're super environmentally friendly.
How would you recommend that someone calls out a company that they've identified as greenwashing?
I think a good thing would maybe be social media, because companies, I know that from experience, are very sensitive when it comes to social media. So you can tweet them, for example, but also you could send them a lovely email and ask for more information and for a bit of data to back it up. And, most likely the first couple of times you won't get a response, but if they see that a lot of consumers are really concerned with these issues, they have to do something about it, because at the end of the day, I think companies do have to react to what the consumer wants. We live in the capitalist world at the end of the day, at least where we are.
Yeah, and this element of greenwashing and not necessarily being able to trust what a company's telling us, I think goes for both of the topics that we've sort of raced through so far, which have been fishing and ocean plastics. You look at the label of something, you look at what a company's putting out there, and you might trust that some fish is sustainably caught, for example, or that a product is made from recycled ocean plastic, and we can't necessarily trust it at face value. So always follow up with a bit of your own research if you have the time or inclination to do so.
Yes. Now, we love a bit of direct action, don't we, Sian?
We do.
So, what about them beaches? We got a lot of beaches in the UK.
Yeah. Have you ever done a beach clean?
Yes, Sian, I've actually done a beach cleanup. So it was last year in Brighton at the Pride weekend, and the organisers of Pride teamed up with a charity called Ocean's 8, and they offered free tickets to the Pride Festival. So a full day ticket if you did an hour's worth of cleaning the beach. And they provided all the equipment. It was also a silent disco thing, but I have to say the headphones didn't work properly. So if you do it again, please get some better headphones. But it was a lot of fun, and I did it with a friend. So I think beach cleanups are great. I'm a huge fan.
Especially if you're doing it communally like that. That sounds so much fun. And what a good exchange to get a free ticket to Brighton Pride.
Yeah, I saw Grace Jones.
Oh my God. Oh.
How about you?
Yeah, I've never done an official organised beach clean. I have been known to sort of find a plastic bag and then start putting all the other rubbish into it. And it's amazing how quickly it just is that little domino effect, because for a couple of seconds people were looking at me as if I was mad. I hadn't prepared, so I didn't have gloves, but I was just like, this is disgusting. So I just started picking stuff up and gathering it into a bag. And, there were a couple of looks and people were almost rolling their eyes, but then someone kind of looked around them and picked up the bits near them. And then, a nice old man shouts, at least someone's doing it. And, slowly but surely, the whole beach started actually engaging with this small thing. So beach cleans that are organised are amazing, but also making it an ingrained habit that we all just kind of pick up a bit of rubbish when we see it and take it to the nearest bin.
Absolutely. Be the change that you want to see. I think it's a great thing. And the same obviously goes for our streets, for our parks. And also, I think if people see that someone is actually cleaning up the beach, okay, there might be some a-holes out there who think like, oh, so okay, if someone's doing it, I'm just going to leave my rubbish there. But other people might feel like, oh, okay, so now I feel really bad if I leave all my rubbish, so I might just take it, because otherwise this lovely lady needs to pick it up,
Yeah, and I guess it's something that we try and rally against in this podcast, is shaming people into making a change. But sometimes, every now and then, if someone feels a small dose of at least self-consciousness about what they're doing, then maybe that's okay.
Yeah, I think we've sort of summed it up quite nicely, or maybe more rambled about many solutions that we can do. I think one more thing that I want to say is cruise ships. I don't want to go into too much details, but they are quite bad for our environment, the oceans, also for communities, labor rights. There's again a myriad of things that are wrong with cruise lines. I want to say, if that is the sort of holiday that you want to do, maybe like read up on it. That's all I can ask. Get informed and maybe choose at least a cruise ship line that is a little bit better, and some of them are pledging to do more for the environment, others just don't give a shit, so
Yeah. I also had one other thing that I wanted to flag, which again is maybe a bit Rogan specific, but it's something that I'm guilty of quite often, is foraging for shells and coral and things like that. And often when you go abroad, you'll see shops that have basically gathered up everything and then they're selling it to tourists. And what you end up with is a beach that has had its natural environment basically vultured away. And yeah, I'm so guilty of it. I actually have a little shelf of shells in my bathroom that I have collected from various beaches over the years. And only recently have I started to look at that with a real pang of guilt. And so it's a habit that I'm pledging to change. I do not need to keep gathering shells from beaches and taking them away from their natural environment. And I would encourage y'all to do the same if you are like me and that's one of your favourite things to do. Forage for random stones and bits of glass. Sea glass is gorgeous. Forage for sea glass only, but not shells, not coral, no animal teeth and all that jazz.
Yes, absolutely. Again, it's about responsibility, isn't it? It's I think we need to see the earth as our home. No matter whether we live on that beach or we don't, like, it's still, we live on this planet and it's our home, so we need to take responsibility.
Yeah. So to recap, we are encouraging or asking people to be mindful about the oceans, have Ocean Day as every day in your life. We can think about our carbon emissions, and a good motivation for that is to stop the sea levels rising. We can think about what we buy to stop so much plastic ending up in the oceans. We can think about who we buy from to make sure that we're buying from sustainable fishermen. We can sign petitions, we can vote in the right way, and we can donate to charities who are committed to cleaning up the oceans. And cruise well and don't forage for shells.
Yes. Absolutely, nicely summed up. So there's lots we can do, really.
Yeah. It's about having it at the forefront of your mind, isn't it? And as we said earlier, there is a whole lot going on in the world right now. And I don't know if you are like me, Simon, but I am feeling a bit exhausted about there's too much to care about. And I know that sounds a bit wanky and it's like, sort it out, Sian. Just, find the energy. But I kind of ended up sometimes in this state of paralysis because I don't know where to go first, where to kind of invest my energy first. So if you feel like that, then please know that we hear you and it's a lot. But if this week you can just think about the oceans, then lovely.
Yes, 100%. I'm exhausted and overwhelmed as well. But I think of the lovely fish in the sea that never did anyone any harm. And that kind of makes me feel better because I want to do something to protect them.
That is such a beautiful thought, Simon. You are an ocean poet. And on that wonderful note, shall we give a couple of eco-whoops?
Yes. So, one of my eco-whoops is all in the spirit of reducing plastic. It's a dishwashing soap bar that I got in that lovely package from Boobaloo that I won. I haven't tried it yet, but I will keep you guys posted on that because there's zero plastic wrapping involved. Nothing needs to be recycled, and it's also better for the water.
That sounds great. Very important question. What does it smell like?
Ooh, it smells very neutral. If that makes sense.
My favourite.
Like a non-aggressive, neutral smell.
Great. Well, that's great. That's better than smelling bad.
Exactly. And maybe the odour... odour is maybe a bad word. Maybe the scent develops more when you actually use it and add water. So I'll keep you posted on that one as well.
I look forward to hearing your update. My first eco-whoop is a company that I've recently shopped from called The Vegan Kind online, and they are independently run and they have a range of cleaning products, homeware products, all sorts of different things. So all of the things that you will easily find when you go into those lovely independent shops often. It's a good sort of pooled resource for that. And I'm making them my eco route because they just seem like really good people. I had a small issue with one of the products, not a huge deal, but reaching out to them, they were so kind, and we just had a nice chat basically. So it was like buying from a mate. So yeah, the Vegan Kind. I would check out their website if you're after some, non-toxic bleach or whatever it is that you need at the moment.
Lovely. A bit of community spirit there as well. I love it. Speaking of websites, that's my second eco whoop this week, is the Friends of the Earth website, foe.org. The Friends of the Earth is one of the oldest environmental charities, and we have spoken about them in our eco-activism episode. They are great, and they have a great website for lots of resources, not only about oceans, but also about oceans. They also do a cruise line sheet where they rank the cruise lines according to how damaging they are to the environment, basically. So if if you're looking for research, go to foe.org.
And to finish on the beach ocean theme, I am giving my second eco route to beach cleanups. I know we've already talked about it, but I just want to really hammer home how great a beach cleanup is. And I just want everyone, if you're listening now, to just have a little think about what it's like to be by the sea, when you're sort of smelling that salty sea air and there's a bit of a breeze maybe, and whether it's sandy or stony, you can hear the waves lapping, and it's such a wonderful place to be. And imagine being able to be in that place whilst saving the world. Beach cleanup.
Yes. That was poetic, Sian. You are the true eco-poet. I want to say in the room, but we're not in the same room.
We're not in the same room. I wonder how soon it will be before we're once again back in the same room. I doubt that it will be for the next episode, so we will bid our listeners goodbye remotely, and we will gather again remotely next time, I don't doubt.
And there's one more thing to say. Always remember, the pod is always greener.